Hi everyone, so in this video we're going to be talking about some basic stats definitions. So first off, we have two of the words that you're going to be seeing probably the most throughout stats. It's population and sample. So a population is the collection of all outcomes, responses, measurements, individuals, etc. who are of interest. A sample is a subset or part of that population. So think of the population as everyone or everything that this is about. A sample is just a little part of that usually. So for example, in a survey, 500 students were asked if they are excited to be taking statistics. Of those asked, 412 responded that they were excited. Identify the population and the sample. So for the population, remember that's everyone. So it's not just those 500 students, it would actually just be all students. So there's way more than 500 students total, so population would be everyone. The sample, however, that one would just be the 500 students. Right? In this example, the 412 actually just doesn't matter. All right, it's not the population or the sample. It does say something about the sample, but we'll get to that in a second. So next, a parameter is a numerical description of a population characteristic. A statistic is a numerical description of a sample characteristic. So essentially, a parameter talks about the population, and a statistic talks about the sample. Easiest way to remember this is parameter and population both start with P, statistic, sample, both start with S. So a couple of examples here. So determine if the following are population parameters or sample statistics. For part A, it's a survey of 58 students at Sanjak found that the average time spent studying per week is 3.5 hours per class. So in this case, we're not actually looking at all students at Sanjak. We're just looking at the 58 students. That's what that 3.5 hours is. It's not the average time for everyone. It's the average time for those 58 students. So in this case, it is a sample statistic. For part B, the class average for an exam was 81%. So in this case, since we're just talking about that class, it did include the entire class. So in this case, the class would be the population. So it's talking about the population, so it's the population parameter. All right, next thing is we're going to talk about a couple different types of statistics. So first off, descriptive statistics is the branch of statistics that involves the organization, summarization, and display of data. Inferential statistics is the branch of statistics that involves using a sample to draw conclusions about a population. Right? So the difference here is that descriptive is just telling you, here's the data. It might present it in different ways, it might do some stuff with it, but it's all just based on that data. Inferential statistics is trying to take some data about a sample and draw conclusions about the bigger population from it. All right, so if you're trying to draw conclusions that are bigger than just the study you did, that's inferential. So, for example, we're going to see which of the following are descriptive or inferential statistics. So for A survey is taken of 100 students and it is found that 14 of them play an instrument. The study concludes that 14% of all students play an instrument. All right, so the key word here is all. We only actually asked 100 students, but we're then concluding something about all students. So we're taking something from the sample and concluding something about the population. So in this case, it's inferential statistics. For part B, I asked 50 students if they play an instrument. 10 of them said yes. I report that 20% of the students surveyed play an instrument. So in this case, 10 out of the 50 students played an instrument, so that is just 20%. And when I report it, I report that 20% of the students surveyed played an instrument. So I'm not trying to take that information and make any broader assumptions. I'm just reporting kind of the facts that 10 of them out of 50 said yes, so that's 20%. So this one's descriptive. All right, next up, qualitative data is data which consists of attributes, labels, or non-numerical entries. So it can be something like colors or sports teams, usually stuff that's not numbers. Notice I said usually though, we'll get back to that. Quantitative data is data that consists of numbers that are measurements or counts. So think of this as stuff that you could add together or subtract and it would still make sense. All right, it's numbers in the sense that you are used to seeing them in math. Right? Now, an important note, not all numbers are going to be quantitative. There are some things that are numbers, but we can't really do math on them because it wouldn't make sense. Like a phone number, for example. You can't take your phone number, add it to your friend's phone number, and get a phone number that would make any kind of sense. Phone numbers don't work that way, right? So a phone number or a list of phone numbers would actually be qualitative because it's just essentially putting a name on your phone. The numbers are just a way of representing it. All right, so let's take a look at a few examples and try to go through them. Decide whether the following are qualitative or quantitative data. For part A, a list of 9 students' favorite colors: red, blue, green, red, pink, orange, blue, purple, blue. So in this case, it's words. If you see words, you can pretty much just automatically say, this is qualitative. For part B, a list of 4 home prices on a street. So 240,000, 295,000, 312,000, 270,000. In this case, you actually can do math with those, right? I could find the average home price on that street, for example. So since we can actually do math with these numbers, these are quantitative. Lastly, a list of 5 zip codes. Now, this is one of those cases where, yes, zip codes are numbers, but if we took a couple of these zip codes and we added them together, Would we actually get something that's a zip code or anything that means anything? No, these numbers are just there to represent areas, right? It's used to represent where you live. So in this case, these numbers don't actually represent real numbers. Like, you can't do things with them that you can do with normal numbers. It just wouldn't make sense. So because of that, this is qualitative. So that's just a few definitions, just to kind of get you started, to know what we're talking about whenever we start talking a little bit more about statistics. All right, thank you.